Hi everyone, Kristina here. Welcome to day 2 of the holiday card series for 2014. Today I'm going to be using a couple different stamp sets, and the first one I'm using is from Simon Says Stamp. This is lots of snowflakes, and I'm arranging them all in one big kind of background area so I can stamp it on top of some Peace, Joy, Love pattern paper from Lawn Fawn. I'm going to mount that all on my compact stamp press, and then this makes it so I can stamp everything all at the same time. So I'm going to do some embossing, so I'm prepping my paper here with some powder. The powder just cuts down on static cling, and it makes it so you get a more clean powder on your stamping. I'm using Versamark ink on those snowflakes, and I'll stamp those down in that bottom corner on the green pattern paper. And then I'll be sprinkling on some Hero Arts white embossing powder just until everything's coated. And then I'll take my heat tool and heat that until it's melted. Then I'm going to do some die cutting. I need to cut a window for the little reindeer stamp I'm going to be using. And so I'm trying to get the sizing just right. These reindeer stamps are from the Elf and Reindeer mini front and back set from Art Impressions. It's really cool. It's made so you can have one side of the reindeer on the front of the card and then the opposite side of the reindeer on the inside. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. So first I cut a large circle, and then I used that as a template to draw on with a pencil, a circle onto my card base here. My card base is 110 pound Neenah Desert Storm, and I scored that at 4 1/4 so that I knew exactly where I would be working. And then I put that circle die down and cut out the circle. Now I'm taking the smaller circle window, I cut that out of some pattern paper, then I'm positioning the larger circle die and cutting it again so that I get a little frame. I adhered that frame with some Tombow Mono Multi Glue down onto the card front, and I'm making sure it lines up so that window shows through. And then I'm going to take the green pattern paper piece and very carefully put that right over the top. I wanted the two pieces of pattern paper to be completely flush with each other. I didn't want one to be higher than the other. That's why I decided to cut the larger circle on the green piece so that the die cut from the frame could be inset. So now I'm going to put in some paper on the inside of the card. This is from that same 6x6 pad. And just to make sure that I don't have any stamping showing through onto the front of the card, just marked where that cutout is. And now I'm using those same snowflake stamps. I had not removed them from my stamp press. I inked those up with Simon Says Stamp lipstick red ink and then stamped that onto the pattern paper. And then I'll take that paper and adhere it down onto the inside of the card. This makes it so as you open the card, there's some interest there, but when the card is closed, all you see is the very simple pattern paper on the inside. So now I'm going to stamp and color the reindeer. I stamped him in Memento Tuxedo black ink on some Neenah 80 pound solar white cardstock. And I'm just doing some really simple Copic coloring. I'm only using a few different colors. In fact, I took great color inspiration from the packaging for this stamp set. I thought the reindeer on the front of the packaging, the colors looked great. So I thought I'll just keep it easy, keep it simple, and just replicate those same colors on my little stamped reindeer. So here I am coloring his behind. I never thought I would say that I'm coloring a reindeer's rump, but here we are. So I'm just coloring him with some different brown tones, and then I'll do his feet and his antlers using a little bit more of a cool toned brown. I'll do both of those, and then I'm going to start working on his nose. I'm using 2 different colors of red. Actually, there's the jingle bells. Now we're doing red. 2 different colors of red. I'm just using R35 and R39. With areas that are so small like this, you don't really need to add a bunch of colors. You know, you don't need to do 3-color blending or anything. So I just had the 2 colors and they seem to work really well. So I colored his nose and also his collar around those jingle bells. And then I had to take my scissors and start cutting this puppy out. And these were quite difficult to cut out. Art Impressions do have dies that match this stamp set, but it leaves a little bit of a white border around it, and I didn't want that white border, so I had to fussy cut it myself. So I took the front of the reindeer and put him through my Xyron sticker maker. This applies adhesive on every single bit of the surface on the back of it, and I wanted to make sure that it really adhered down to the back of the reindeer. So I just lined those up and then pressed them together really well. And to make them look a little bit more seamless, I took my Memento Tuxedo Black marker that has the brush tip on the end, and I painted all those edges. And sometimes that included taking the tip and almost painting in between those two pieces of cardstock. I really wanted to make sure that it was hidden, that they were adhered together. So I took some really strong adhesive. This is that same adhesive I've been using, Tombow Extreme Adhesive. And I slid that in front of the circle for the front of the card and got the positioning just right. And then I pressed that down and made sure that it wasn't going to move. It did wiggle a little bit at first, but once I pressed it down, it worked great. So that is basically what I wanted to do with the circle window. And now I'm going to work on some greetings for the card. I'm going to put a little tiny greeting from the stamp set on the inside. And the greeting says, "To a dear friend." And then I thought I would put "Merry Christmas" on the front. But I'm going to do some details on the reindeer first. So I took some Christmas red stickles and I just used a little piece of cardstock to dab that on his nose. Eventually I do just add it directly on there because I wanted more glitter. But I did want to show you guys what it looked like up close. And then I took some Reindeer Glossy Accents and added a little bit of shine right on top of the jingle bells on his collar. And I did that on both sides. And because I applied such a small amount, this didn't take very long to dry. And I was able to almost immediately move on with the rest of the card. So I'm using the Holiday Hellos stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. I'm using the Merry Christmas greeting, and I'm embossing that on some Schoolhouse Red cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. I stamped that in Versamark, put some white embossing powder on top, and then trimmed it down and cut a little ribbon end on one end of the greeting. This is going to be going on the front of the card, so I put some foam adhesive on the back and then pressed that down. And we're almost done with the card. I'm just going to add a few dash lines on the inside around that circle window. It just looked a little bit empty and I didn't want to have to cut another frame. And that finishes the card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a really different card for me. It was very time consuming. I think it took me about an hour and 20 minutes to complete, but I think it's kind of worth it, especially for someone special on your Christmas list. If you'd like to see the Day 2 card videos from the previous 5 years of the Holiday Card Series, they are on screen right now, so go ahead and click on any of those. Please give this video a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button in the top corner. You can visit my blog at KingWernerDesign.com, and I will catch you guys tomorrow for a special video. I kind of teased you guys on Instagram and Facebook talking about custom return address stamps, so I'm going to be sharing with you some of my finds with that tomorrow. So I'll be back with that, and then on Friday it will be Day 3 of the Holiday Card Series. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.